Sometimes you need to cancel who you need to cancel and see who you're able to see. We are humans and our needs are important. So if you can selectively cancel some appointments so you have a break during your day, or you're able to see those who have the highest need that really are not going to do well if you need to cancel or reschedule, that's going to allow you to make it through the day a little bit easier. Welcome to the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. This episode is sponsored by the Collab Oasis Clinical Consultation Groups. Hi, I'm Janine Wolf, and I'm your colleague down the hall. I have a passion for helping fellow therapists get the clinical and collegial support we all need to do this work. And wow, it just keeps getting harder every day. I'm the founder and facilitator of the Collab Oasis Clinical Consultation Groups. I have been a social worker for almost 30 years, and I own a successful solo online private practice. More of us than ever are practicing in solo or online practices, and we all need colleagues to process cases with, commiserate with on those really hard days, and also to celebrate our successes with. In this podcast, I'll bring you insights about trends and changes in our field and sit down with amazing therapists who are doing amazing work. We'll discuss fictionalized cases, ways to practice sustainably, and of course, there will be plenty of laughing. I love laughing with friends. I'm so glad to have you as one of my colleagues down the hall. Hello, everyone. You are listening to another episode of the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. I'm your host, Janine Wolf, and today I want to talk about a topic that those of us in private practice have experienced over and over and over again, and it's never a simple discussion. There's never a simple solution to this conundrum that we often face. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about when you find yourself needing to go to work, have clients scheduled, and then life happens. So I'm going to discuss this from several different perspectives. First of all, I'm going to talk about when life happens to you. Have you heard the expression, life happens when you're busy making plans? Well, that's been a recurring theme in my life over the past 5 years. As therapists, we all know there are people out there whose struggles or hardships are much greater than our own. My hardships have been deeply personal and difficult, but I'm fully aware that so many others have it much worse, so I want to acknowledge that up front. I want to share a recent experience that happened in my life because it's one of those things that we don't get any training on, we don't know how to navigate, and that's the intersection of our life and our work. So last week, I was at the ER until 3 a.m. with a family member who lives with several autoimmune diseases. I was fortunate that I could be there to support her. Without a doubt, I wouldn't have had it any other way. But I woke up the next morning exhausted and questioning if I could do my job. There have been times that I woke up with a sore throat or some other part of me having some GI issues. You never know, a terrible back pain and not being able to sit in your chair for a day or several hours at a time. And so we end up in this sort of cycle of decision making. And for those of you who are in private practice, like I am myself, we only get paid if we are seeing clients. So if I'm making a decision to cancel my clients for the day, for life happening, for illness, for something else that's unexpected that has arisen, I know that I'm going to be losing income. And that shouldn't be the main reason that we are making that decision, but we do know that is part of the decision-making process that comes into our mind. That's also the reason that I'm a huge proponent of setting up a fund for yourself so that you have money set aside. So when you have times where you go on vacation or you unexpectedly have to miss work, you can draw from that fund to pay yourself. Sometimes it's just a matter of you have a lot of cancellations or it's a slow time of year. Or right now, it seems like all of my insurance claims are getting denied for one reason or another. Some of it has to do with some changes in the coding that we've been told to use for some of the insurance companies. Some of it, I'm not even sure. I'm gonna have to track that down. But certainly is a good time to have some money to pull from to float myself while I'm waiting for these payments to come in. And then, of course, once those payments do come in, I can pay back the fund. So in general, I want to talk about the process I've developed for decision making in these types of situations. My general rule of thumb is if I'm questioning my capacity to work, based on illness, unexpected life events, or something along those lines, I most likely need to cancel all or part of my day. But then I need to delve a little bit deeper since we care about our clients and don't want to cancel or reschedule unless we really have to. So I look at several factors. Who are the clients that I'm scheduled to see today? Are they clients that I've been seeing for a while and I know that if I need to move them to another day or to the following week, they're going to be okay? Are there clients that are in crisis that I really need to figure out a way to see them if at all possible? And sometimes it's not possible. Are there clients that maybe are dealing with something around that I'm coping with personally? Okay. So their treatment might be around living with a chronically ill family member, and that's something I was in the ER with. And is that going to be taxing on me to be working with them? Also, am I going to be tempted to self disclose more than I need to? Again, I like to have rules of thumb for those. So my rule of thumb for self-disclosure is if you're going to share someone with a client, you need to know what the benefit to that client is going to be. Is it going to normalize something they're experiencing? Is it going to help affirm the issues that they're dealing with? Are they going to become educated in some way or another? And if you can't answer yes to any of those things, then you probably need to not self-disclose. So if they are in treatment for something that I'm coping with personally. And last year, I had an unexpected death in the family at the end of the year. And the year before, I had an expected but still very difficult death in the family. And so, grief clients at that time were really taxing for me. And that was something that I needed to be aware of so I could make decisions if I needed to. So, I assess if I can really be present for them today. So can I show up and be able to do my job and support them around an issue that might be deeply personal to me as well? Then I decide, do I need to move one or all of my clients based on this criteria? We often see the decision to cancel our day as a black or white decision, but it's really not. Sometimes you need to cancel who you need to cancel and see who you're able to see. We are humans and our needs are important. So if you can selectively cancel some appointments so you have a break during your day, or you're able to see those who have the highest need that really are not going to do well if you need to cancel or reschedule, that's going to allow you to make it through the day a little bit easier. And then again, as I said earlier, as much as we don't want this to be a part of our decision making, I look at whether I can manage the financial hit of canceling or rescheduling for another week. Typically, if I've gotten through all those other things, who are the client, what is the goal of treatment, and is it something that personally is going to be difficult for me, and are there one or two clients that I can cancel to make the day more manageable? If I've gotten this far and I'm still questioning if I can work this day, I might want to err on the side of working, with the understanding that I might need to change my mind later in the day depending on how I'm coping. So even though in the morning or the night before you might be making this decision, give yourself the slack to say, okay, at the time that decision was reasonable, it seemed like the best thing, but now some things have changed. I'm feeling worse or I'm feeling better. And so I might need to change that decision, and that is okay. So, fortunately, during that scenario, I had a lighter caseload with clients. So, I felt that I did have the capacity to work with them. The day went fine. I was able to go to bed early that night. And I felt confident in making my decision based on that criteria. I want to encourage you to broaden your perspective about how to make these types of decisions. Therapists set the bar really, really high for themselves, and we seem to think that our clients' well being is very important. We need to be professional, we need to be ethical, we need to be responsible. However, we are humans who happen to also be therapists, and there are going to be times that we have to make the decision that's best for us that may not be ideal for our clients, but we still need to do that. In the case of an unexpected death or an unexpected need to be with someone, a family member needing to go out of town at the last minute to help care for somebody, those things are going to arise. And I would encourage you to create your own list of criteria. Think about the things that have come up in the past, the times that you've been faced with these types of decisions. What were the factors? What did you decide? And what did you learn from that experience? Because for myself, if I can feel like I have a good procedure in place for managing these decisions, then I'm also going to be more confident in that decision. And so I just hope this tip will be really helpful. We don't get training in these types of things when we're going through graduate school. It's not something that's talked about very often. Sometimes it gets talked about, and unfortunately, we have colleagues that might be judgy or shaming. And so reach out to a colleague if you need to that you trust that can give you some good feedback in a supportive way, maybe some constructive criticism in a supportive way. But reach out to the people that you know you can trust if you need more support in making that decision. But I suspect that if you come up with a way of navigating this, then you're going to feel more confident that you've followed a good process, you've made a good decision, and you're going to move on with your life. You're going to manage whatever you need to manage, and your clients are going to be okay. I hope this has been a good discussion for you. For everyone listening, there are new episodes of the Colleague Down the Hall podcast released every Thursday on all major platforms. If you are looking for a consultation group in a small group format that's safe and respectful, I would encourage you to consider the Collab Oasis consultation groups. These types of things get discussed all of the time in our groups, and it's so helpful to have a forum where you can bring these issues and you can get the support that you need. And please remember, our work is hard. It doesn't have to be lonely. Thank you so much for listening to the Colleague Down the Hall podcast. For show notes, links, and downloads, head over to colleaguedownthehall.com, where you'll be able to learn more about getting the clinical support you need and resources to help you work in a supported, sustainable way. If you've enjoyed this episode, please share with your therapy friends and colleagues. Subscribe to the podcast, and if you love this episode, please leave a review.